And so I don't know if there's any additions or corrections to the minutes from last month. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Or
Second.
resolution.
All in favor?
Did we get a second?
Is there a second?
Sally, that was you, right?
I can second.
Thank you, Sally.
Yes, Sally.
That's good. So all in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No opposed? The minutes are approved.
All right.
So now we can go to the director's report.
Sure. So this month we, as I mentioned in the minutes, we are invited to come and do a presentation at the Commissioner's semi-annual report, semi-annual meeting. So they had a few people, a few health departments present on how they use different grant funds that come through the Connecticut Department of Public Health, and we were one of those asked. And so I thought I would, and sorry for the people who are on the phone, but I have the presentation pulled up here, but I will talk through it a little bit. It's just basically about the use of the Preventative Health Block Grant over the last 10 years, and we've really focused on bicycle and pedestrian improvements, and so talking about changing the built environment to improve physical activity and reducing chronic diseases then. So starting in 13 and 14 with the Mill Plain Road bike route. It was our first bike route in town, the north-south route, 3.5 mile round trip. Included, the share the road signs, the shoulder striping, just to bump the stripe out a little bit, make the car lane a little more narrow, provide, just a clear delineation for bicyclists, and all those signs. And then those years we installed 4 new bike racks around town that are still around. I still see them, one right by Fairfield Ave, just as you come into Fairfield, and a couple others around town. In 2015, we started a 3-year pilot bike share program. We partnered with Zane Cycles. We had 10 3-speed bikes, 20 helmets, locks, and we had over the 3 years about 550 rides. And it was, realized during a time of transition when the bike share popularity was starting to fade and people were sort of leaning more towards electric scooters. And so, as the name indicated, it was a pilot program. We realized at the end of the 3 years that, we probably didn't want to continue it. And right around that time, Zane's said they were moving their bike store out of Fairfield for a while. And so it was a nice way to end it. Since we've transferred the 10 bikes, 5 to Sacred Heart, 5 to Fairfield View, and so those bikes are still in use, still see them around town. 2016 through 2018, we did the Shoreline bike route, striping, share the road signs. It's a 12-mile round trip bike route. We secured additional funding from the state for a library bike route, connecting the Main and the Woods Library with the same thing with the signs and the striping, the share the roads, and that's another 8.5-mile round trip. We did 5 bike repair stations and 3 pump stations around town, and 6 additional bike racks down at the beaches. And 2019, they did a lake to beach bike route, connecting the Shoreline bike route to Lake Mohegan, 3-mile round trip connection there. And then in 19 to 21, we focused on a couple pedestrian improvement projects, one on Wilson Ave, where it was, making a connection with existing sidewalk systems and providing a safer pathway for kids going to their bus stop. And then we also did Jackman Avenue, which connected the playground park in the area to some existing sidewalk systems that were further out but not directly connected. You can see, in that picture how it was like, people were just kind of walking on the dirt there or going out into the street, and then we put a nice sidewalk. And at the end of that block, it actually connects to a whole other sidewalk system that goes up towards Park Ave and up towards, continues on Jackman. And then 2023, we did 600 feet of sidewalk, which connected to 2 existing sidewalks to create a 1.4-mile continuous sidewalk system on South Pine Creek. And so that was basically it. And again, we've talked about this before here. I just thought I'd share the presentation that Santina developed and we presented. But it works. We worked with the engineering department, the police, to get the approvals to put the signs up, and with Public Works and doing a lot of the work, and, arranging the construction scheduling, if you will, to sort of map it out of how it needs to happen and what contractors need to be hired. But anyway, I thought I would share that presentation. We have submitted, so the Preventative Health Block Grant transitioned to a competitive grant process. And so we did submit an application. It used to be sort of a guaranteed thing. If you submitted an application, all health departments were eligible. If you submitted an application, you would get funded, and they would determine what level of funding was based upon how many applications. Now they've made it a competitive grant process with an RFP. And so we submitted an RFP for $30,000 a year, which was the sort of minimum bid. Before, we had been spending about $15,000 a year. And so while we're asking for more, we don't want to bite off too much in terms of creating a lot of other projects. There is a lot of logistics to get these projects done within a year. From a public works planning perspective, that's pretty quick. So we submitted that. We'll wait and see, but that's $30,000 a year for 5 years. We submitted our public health emergency preparedness proposed budget to the region, and that budget was accepted by the state. So we will. We're in the 5th year of a 5-year grant for that one. So we'll continue on with that. That grant had a slight reduction, about $4,500 reduction, due to Easton now becoming part of the Aspetuck Health District. And so the formula that they used to include the funding for Easton because Easton was part of our mass dispensing area. So we get a little bit less, but still plenty of money. Over the last few weeks, we've had a little bit of time posting information about how to keep cool in the heat. And so we spent a fair amount of time putting content up on our website and working with the First Select Woman's office to ensure that the content put up is current and checking with all the locations that were to be cooling centers that they're okay with that. And so, and I think we shared that Santina from our office had trained 12 other individuals from other health departments on Matter of Balance. And to date, those 12 health departments have, within just a few months, have already offered the program 5 times. And so we're happy to see that program growing and getting more people, into that type of programming that helps with prevent falls. It's really a fall prevention program for seniors.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Have you had, the cooling centers, have they actually been enforced yet this summer?
We did it once last week. I mean, basically, we make people aware of municipal locations in town where you can go to cool down if you don't have air conditioning.
Which is like the library?
The library, the senior center, the lobbies of any of the municipal buildings, the rec department, places like that. We don't set up a dedicated building.
I just was wondering if they actually had a time when it was that serious that people needed to know. More than like today.
It's typical in the extended heat waves in late August and stuff that we'll get requests from citizens like, where can I go? And so when it's a longer extended thing, and especially if there's any, risk of brownouts or power outages, or if there's, happens to be, we're in hurricane season, so if it happens to happen during a hurricane, we look to facilities that have generator power. So we would look at schools, we'd look at churches. So we have, opened up several, requested churches to open up for either cooling and warming centers during storm events. And a lot of times it's even just connectivity centers where people can go and get Wi-Fi to, be connected with their world. But yep, we open them up. We make people aware of them. Depending on the length, we'll extend it. Yeah, the churches love it. They open up their lobbies and they give cookies and, have people to talk to people and, so. Any other questions? No? Okay.
No.
All right. So Santina, I think we shared she's got trained to be Santina and Julie from our office trained to be question, persuade, refer trainers. It's a suicide prevention program, so they've now offered the program 4 times and have trained just under 70 people. And they've actually done 3 of the 4 fire battalions already, and they're doing the 4th one coming up at the end of July. So we're happy to see that that program is growing. We continue with our beach sample monitoring this summer. This past week, we had, depending on the location, the coastal beaches had a little less, but inland had a little bit more, but we had between 3 and 5 inches of rain. Up by Lake Mohegan, we had nearly 5 inches of rain happen in, a little over a 24-hour period, across 2 days. So we did end up, and it was less down by the shore. We did end up closing the beaches, all beaches down on July 4th. We reopened the coastal beaches on July 5th. And we kept Lake Mohegan closed because it just got so much rain up there until we took samples on Thursday, and those came back. All the coastal ones came back fine, and the lake came back high still. So we resampled on Friday, sent those up to the state, and the state called us on Saturday, and those samples were fine. So we were able to open the lake on midday on Saturday. So we're happy to get that up and going. And last night we only had just a little bit of rain, so hopefully the samples taken today will be fine. The WPCF facility, water pollution control facility, is still experiencing complaints related to the odor.
Oh, it was today.
Yep, and so
unfortunately, I had the ability to find out.
Yep.
It was really bad this morning.
Yeah, yep, and so that the last few days have been they did have some issues last week where they had to open the top of one of the digesters for a little bit, and that caused some issues. And so, they're in this process of recommissioning the primary digester, and so it's a fluid process apparently, and takes some art to it.
Is it like they have the equipment, but that's not working, or they don't have all the equipment? To redo the whole thing, or whatever they need to do?
Everything's repaired. So there was some damaged equipment. So something broke. The primary digester broke, so they had to have it repaired. It was a multi-million-dollar repair, and so all that work is done. That was completed sort of towards the end of May, and then in early June they started what they call recommissioning the digester. So they're slowly filling it, balancing the bacterial action, the biological action that goes on in there, but it takes like up to 45 days to do that.
So in other words, they have the equipment, they're doing everything they're supposed to do, it's just taking time.
Just taking
to
time.
Get everything recalibrated, if you will.
So what that primary digester does is it digests the sludge.
Yeah.
And
it didn't this morning.
Yeah. So, but that's the problem is that, when you reduce the amount of sludge, you reduce the amount of odor. And so the digester digests the sludge, it reduces the amount of sludge, you have less odor, and it gets, the sludge that's there gets more treated more fully. It still meets all the parameters that are required by the regulation. It's just a more odorous product at the end of it. And so that's the struggle. They've installed an entirely new biofilter, which is that big bed of wood chips along the road there. They've installed an entirely new odor control system, and that is fully functional. But they're still experiencing some odor issues. So.
What does that system, when you go to the dump and you make that turn and you have all that stuff that's on the ground there?
The wood chips?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that supposed to do?
So that is essentially a large filter. So that's called the biofilter. And so there's pipes from the buildings that generate odorous processes. So the composting building, the digester, and the sewage dewatering station. There's a building there where there's like a press that squeezes the water out of the sludge. Those areas are particularly odorous, and so they pull the air out of those facilities. It goes through those big pipes that you see and goes down below the wood filter, the wood chips, and then the air is released through that, and there's bacterial action, biological action that helps digest some of those odor-causing
And then what happens
fumes.
to those chips that there?
So-
They know they get changed.
So every so often they get changed, yeah, so they.
And what do they do with those?
So the chips will just be, they'll either reintroduce them as part of the composting process.
Okay.
But they basically will take those chips away and recycle them. So is my understanding. So we're still dealing with, I had to respond to a question today about a particular component of the new odor control system, the additive that is the active ingredient, regarding the safety of that. And so just responding to citizens' concerns about, is this new odor control, odor neutralizing additive safe, and just working with the state to ensure that we get the right answer and that the product is safe, reviewed the safety data sheet, but that's still taking time. And then I thought I would share, we talked about our anti-vaping campaign.
What?
Our anti-vaping campaign. Remember the videos, the students who were here last time? So just to wrap up so we've been launching the videos one a week, and so we've got all 5 videos up now. And I thought I would share this, which is Channel 12 News on the July 4th, actually did a really nice story about the anti-vaping campaign and featuring the kids. So I thought I'd play that for you. Let's see if we got sound and everything. I'm hoping.
That's okay. We get them.
I think that
no,
used
they're
to that
great.
yeah.
Concern among teenagers, but now a new series of videos including
Darian shows us how. Dangers of vaping using kids, revealing a new way to warn teenagers against the dangers of vaping using kids and social media. News Talk Connecticut's Jeff Darian shows us how.
Here in Fairfield and in other cities and towns, vaping is a major concern among teenagers. But now, a new series of videos, including one with a high school basketball star, has kids talking to kids.
The marketing for vaping is intense and seductive. This guy, who calls himself Vape God, is a big Instagram star, doing tricks with smoke, but the Fairfield Health Department says there's nothing funny about vaping.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So a new approach to try and get high school kids to stop vaping before they start.
We all came up with the idea.
Brainstorm project,
Kids reaching other kids now through 5 separate locally produced videos.
Oh my God, guys, it's Lord Vapor!
Being promoted on social media, where teenagers naturally spend a lot of time.
I've never been afraid to be myself. I'm a very loud and straightforward kind of guy, so I've been very adamant, if somebody asks me if I want to vape with them, no, that's not who I am. I prefer to keep myself as healthy as possible.
Just get this image in my head. Pedro says vaping and blowing smoke could make him blow the big game. Students from Ludlow, Ward, Prep, and Notre Dame Catholic High took part in the videos, coming up with their own ideas. And Fairfield Cares Community Health Coalition teamed up with the health department to get the videos made.
They listen to each other, and they can really be positive influences for each other. So it's all about, creating those positive social norms. I was dying of laughter.
Scarlett, who will be a sophomore this fall, like Pedro, says vaping is so not cool, and she has this message for her friends.
I don't think that is what you should be doing, even if you think that those people are cooler than you. Are you okay? Do you need some water?
Just kidding. These kids are stepping up to crush peer pressure with videos, standing apart from the crowd and showing a different kind of independence on this 4th of July.
So if you have a teenager you're worried about starting to vape, or maybe someone you know has a child and you want them to check out the videos, we've got them listed for you. You can go to our website, click a link, and you can check them out. Just go to news12.com. In Fairfield, Jeff Darian, News 12, Connecticut.
And funding for those videos came from the Connecticut Department of Health. Now, the Fairfield Health Department.
2.5 minutes of, press for that, which I thought was great, and that they were able to get the kids to show up. Kids showed up on July 4th, the morning of July 4th, at school to shoot the video. So we thought that was some great promotion. So we put that into embedded that in the website, so that people can link to see that. But so that is my report.
Thank you very much. That's excellent.
That's great.
That's really nice that they did that.
Very nice.
That's good. So, Jill?
Now, Jill, do you have slides and videos?
No, I
No?
don't.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
All right.
realize
We'll have
that.
to use our imagination.
I just have a chorus line coming in. Okay, so during the budget season, we requested 2 full-time nursing positions to address the increased acuity and increased utilization of two school health offices in particular. We were approved for 2 part-time positions, and we're going to continue monitoring our offices to see if I think the biggest concern that the Board of Finance and the Selectmen and the Finance Department as well that they had was that it just might be a blip, this increased acuity and increased utilization. So we're just going to continue to monitor that over the next couple of all through next year. We posted the positions and they're already filled. So as of this writing tonight, all of our positions are filled, and we're just really recruiting for sub-nurses at this time. Summer school is in session right now. We have 4 locations, and we have nurses in each building. Most of the programs are just offering supportive services for the extended school year and special ed population, but it's significant numbers of kids. We have about with the exception of ECC, they have about 150 children. The other schools have about 250 to 350 kids at each session. So it's a lot. It's almost like
That's like special ed?
Special education, supported services. They call it extended school year.
Okay.
So the children don't get a break in their support services, and they get that continued throughout, the 11 months. Yeah, just about 11 months.
Is there any kind of something that's happening with these children that you're following? I'm not sure what I'm asking, to be truthful.
Yeah.
But I remember I used to substitute in special ed in another life.
Yeah.
And there were autistic children, and there were just children with some little different things. But
Yeah.
Is there anything that's
Well,
like,
I think, we have children certainly who require intensive services over the summer, but it's also educational support that we're giving to kids throughout who may not be identified as having a particular diagnosis, but that they need some educational support, whether it's literacy report or math support.
I guess what I'm asking, is there a trend in any different type of special ed that children need today? Is something going on that's more than it used to be?
Oh, Carolyn, that's a big question. I think, that's,
Sorry.
yeah, no. I mean, certainly we've identified other issues, let's say, the mental health crisis, of course, that's been going on for the past 5 years, prior to the pandemic. And we've just identified that these students need a lot more support. Perhaps those children need more emotional support than educational. But, if you're out of school for a very long time, you're going to need educational support. If you're out of school for your mental, emotional issues, you're going to be needing support educationally going forward.
I was just kind of wondering if there were more issues than what I used to have to face.
That's hard for me to answer. I think there's a bigger utilization of special education services.
Because it was not the biggest thing when I first started teaching.
Yeah.
But as I went on, it got more and more, and now I suspect it's more and more. But I was just wondering if there was any particular type of
needs more
not
help. That I'm aware of. I mean, It could be a host of things. I don't think that there's
I think
one that
things are just being
stand out.
identified a little bit
I'm
more
sorry?
now. I think things are being identified
Yeah.
more. I think problems with
That's
children that are more
probably it.
subtle,
Yeah.
right, without having a definitive diagnosis of, let's say, autism or
Yeah.
Asperger's
Which is-
syndrome. But
Which
they're,
is great.
yeah, I think it's good. So, kids who have.
Oh, no,
right.
anything that you can do is better,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, but I was just kind of
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, you're right. I think they are being identified more than they were previously. I don't know whether or not there are new problems, though, that are happening now that were not happening 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was
And I think it's great that kids get the support.
Great that-
years ago.
yeah,
you
no,
were
I think
dating me.
it's a larger number of students than I thought for the summer.
Yeah.
I think that's actually really very good
Yeah.
that it's available for them. It's good.
No, I'm just happy that those advancements are taking place. That's, because I didn't have that.
Well, I think
kind
it's
of-
also parents' awareness, and they seek to get their children tested for whatever, but...
Yes.
So, I think I mentioned the last time I was here our compliance with mandated school immunizations. So our efforts are paying off in that. We've been using CTWIZ, the statewide immunization database, and it's been instrumental in detecting actually a lot errors of omission, for one thing, on the children's individual records that we get, and they're in the database. As well as documentation errors that we're finding on our health forms.
Yeah, because I know I read all that stuff. I shouldn't say stuff. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm like, oh my word, so much has come forward since I was involved with children that I just really think it's fantastic.
Oh, are you talking about
about
the
the
immunizations or the special?
Anything that comes up with the children
on later.
that are on the thing.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Well, it happens. And please, I appreciate your comments. But I also want to say that the school nurses were really advocating for compliance. We did reach out to nearly all of the parents of children who were not in compliance but were in school. And we're educating the parents as well as the providers. We're facilitating appointments at providers, at our own office, and in some cases, the school nurses have been administering vaccines at the school setting if a parent can't take off work or they can't drive or they can't do that. So we just get all the paperwork done ahead of time, and then the nurses are able to do it. The state has also participated in this effort because they've been requesting the names of providers who are not complying with the new regulation that the commissioner put out in February. If a provider says, I'm doing an alternate schedule from the CDC, or I'm, doing some sort of medical exemption for the child, the provider is obligated to register with the state. And, if they don't register, nobody knows. So the state reached out to all the districts and said, who are the names of the providers of the who are not whose kids are not compliant. So we did that, and I think that's great because I think we just don't have any authority to tell the doctor's offices, oh, you have to do this. But I think DPH does, and they're working on that. As part of our year-end review, we found that there was a 15% increase in the number of vision and hearing screenings that were done this year. And if you remember all the way back in September, we brought the Spot Vision screener, and Jason, who I really have to thank, he suggested that not only do we screen second graders who previously were not screened for vision, but that we do hearing screening as well. And I presented that to our audiometric aide, Jackie DeFabio, and she did. She virtually has seen every child pre-K to 5 in the town of Fairfield and did the hearing screening. And then the nurses went out, nurses from my office went out and helped the school nurses with the vision screening. So it's well worth it, Sam. I'm really happy that we have that. We continue to promote, as part of our year-end wrap-up, having the nurses take advantage of continuing ed opportunities. And, of course, with the pandemic, we weren't able to do it much in the previous 2 or 3 years, but this year, the nurses were able to attend conferences on pediatric orthopedics, generic pediatric overviews, mental health issues, and seizures in the school-aged child. And then finally in May, I attended Nurses Day in Hartford, which was really great. And I had the opportunity to speak with some of our state representatives and other nurses regarding, hot topics that nurses are dealing with now, as staffing minimums, workforce improvements, workforce development, and hero pay for health department RNs, which was certainly a hot topic. Some new legislation that has already gone into effect that affects the school nurses is an increase to, doesn't sound like much, but it's an increase to 15 hours biannually for professional development education. It isn't that much, I don't think, which is why I encourage, all of the outside trainings that they can go to. But we already do that. Fairfield, the department already provides easily 15 hours of continuing ed for our nurses. It's every 2 years. I'd love to see it more. But given the constraints of the school day, the obligations of the nurses to work a certain amount of days each year, and we just don't have the resources really to pay them overtime, let's say, to attend a conference on a Saturday or something like that. So we'll get there. Another piece of legislation that allows for Connecticut nurses employed by boards of education to have what's called a special services endorsement. And other boards of ed professionals have that endorsement, so like speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, psychologists, and nurses don't have that. Wow. But it only applies to nurses who are employed by boards of education. And of course, we're employed by Department of Health. Today, actually, I was supposed to go up to Hartford and talk to them about that, but they canceled the meeting because of the weather up there. It was pretty nasty, but we're going to reschedule and just see how that piece of legislation that affects Board of Ed employed nurses can affect those who are employed by health departments. And it's a designation, but I do think, it gives the nurses some recognition, and hopefully they can translate that into more, tangible results for them, or tangible rewards for them. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
That's a lot.
Uh-huh. It was 3 months, Carolyn.
No, I do really respect everything that you do, because when I look at all of those papers that we have that you go out, and I look at it, and I really look at it, that's a lot of work.
Well,
and I just think it's really fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I know I have a degree in this and that and the other thing, but somehow, some way, I think that's more specific.
Well,
and I think that
I would think so. And when we talk about our other protocols here, I think you'll understand why.
Yeah, well, that's the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, really patient-centered kind of protocols that we have to get.
Great, thanks, Jill. So, were there any comments? Anybody? Any comments from the community? Anything? I did not get any this morning.
No communications, you mean? Okay.
Communications.
Yeah.
Communications.
Yeah. No, I had none.
Any old business or unfinished business?
We have none.
Is there any new business?
Yes, Jill has some revised policies that she would like to present, and hopefully get a review and approval.
Right. I hope you had a chance to take a look at them. The 3 policies were clean intermittent catheterization, gastrostomy tube feedings, and oxygen administration. And I have to tell you, we took a look at these. You'll see the dates of them and go back to March. It's related to the increased acuity that I was talking about earlier, and the need for more skilled nursing in the school health office. If you take a look, the last time that the intermittent catheterization and the G-tube policy was reviewed was back in like 1994, I believe. So it's been a while. So we took a deep dive into these policies, and we used more recent references. The state itself has come out with an awful lot of procedural guidelines for many of this, and I really didn't change a lot of the procedures. But I thought it was important nonetheless to do the review and to have the board take a look at it and see if you have any questions about what's going on there. But, these should be done much more frequently than every 25 years.
I would think so.
But we did have children this year many children with G-tube feedings, one child with catheterization a couple of times a day, and we've expanded, actually, I should say this, I think the one policy that really got the biggest change was the oxygen administration, and we just added mechanical ventilation and ambu bag ventilation to the other, nasal cannula and mask and trach, because that's happened in the past few years. We have children who are on, it happened a while ago. I had a student who required mechanical ventilation at a school. And certainly this year we had a student who required emergency oxygen administration. And we just wanted to give the nurses policy and procedure and guidelines just to know that what they're doing is based in research and recommendations, respectable sources. So.
Hi, this is Sally. Is it okay if I interject?
Of course,
for a minute?
Sally.
No. Hi. So I just want to say, I'm fully supportive. Of course, I think it's great that there's, more education, more distinct policy surrounding that. I know you're saying like 1995, which seems crazy because that's a really long time ago. It's when I graduated high school. And, I just think about the trends in even the skilled nursing facilities over the 16 years I worked in that setting prior to home health care, is that everything became increasingly more medical. You found a lot of skilled nursing facilities that didn't have IV administration experience as much with the PEG tubes, trach ventilation. They all needed to step up the training for that and policies, just because of an ever-increasing complicated population. So, and I have personally, during COVID, I had some patients who were very medically involved, and not necessarily in Fairfield, but what actually kept them from being back in the school environment was the lack of nurses who were able to handle those students. So, and I had to advocate for outplacements, et cetera. So I think, if we're able to provide that PEG tube care, et cetera, in the school environment to keep these kids in, a familiar and comfortable school environment, then by all means, that's very, very important. That's definitely like the trend, and it definitely keeps as many kids as possible, with their peers and in their home schools. So I'm 100% for that. I did want to just add one thing to the earlier question before about, the population and increased population of, special education and the summer programs, being serviced. And I think that is another example of, the isolation and being out of schools for so long. So just to answer the question there, certainly, again, in the home health care realm, because so many kids either weren't seeing their primaries or were more isolated or were not having as much socialization. Obviously, there's all the documented academic loss, but in addition, that was social and also speech language related as well, So just my 2 cents on that there definitely was a real increase that emerged from the pandemic, and we're seeing we're needing to address that now across the board. And so, I'm glad that Fairfield has those programs in place as well, and excellent teachers, and I like how the health department is integrated, with education and our school nurses in that manner. So that's just kind of my little overview, and thank you for the reports.
Thank you. So you have any other, looking for a vote to approve those?
I am. I mean, really, they really didn't change all that much. I mean, one of the other things, as I said, it was two additional methods of O2 administration that were added, and there were some changes with the clean intermittent catheterization, some minor changes in how you go about, wiping the genitalia before.
That's what got me thinking about, has this progressed? I mean, are we having more children that need to go through all of these kinds of things that you're talking about?
Certainly not in this. I mean, it's
Yeah.
It just got
me going and thinking.
But yes, the complexity of care and the acuity of care, or the acuity of individuals in
and having these children in school
is growing over the years.
I'll tell you, Carolyn, I had a sister who was bedridden from the age of 9, and she did not attend school. She would be in school if she were a student today.
True. So. Yeah, I know. I had an uncle who would have been in school if he were today.
So
I mean, it hits everybody, I think, to a certain extent.
Yeah,
but
and I'm happy to see them in school.
I just got so into those papers.
My goodness.
I don't know why, but I just like, oh my God, what all the things that you people do, it's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot.
Were there any changes that you want to highlight the changes on the third one?
No, actually the G2 was basically all the same.
Just updated references.
So what kind of a motion do you want?
Approval. Oh, do I call for it? No, I think Mark called.
Yeah, so I would just ask, could I have a motion to approve the changes in the policies that Jill just summarized?
And I would just say...
somebody say it, and I'll approve it.
Yeah, I would just say a motion to approve the procedures regarding clean intermittent catheterization, gastronomy tube feeding, and oxygen administration.
Thank you.
So you've made the motion.
I made the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ally, second.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Is
No
Mary
opposed.
Francis in there?
So approved.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Jill. Very good.
That is all we have.
That's it, so no comments, no communications, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.
We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you, there's no
Thank you.
August meeting. We'll see you in September. So enjoy your summers.
Good, thank you.